like to challenge myself each time out. I try to take everything I've learned from Bad Boys on of how to make it better, make it different. I am always trying to put my cameras in very unique places and give the audience a much more unique view. You know, example is when Shane, a character named Shane, arrives at the farm. I had this vision in my mind after I used the Phantom Flex, which is a very, very high-speed digital camera. I realized that your sense of time and space get warped, and the human mind can't track what is the correct time. And if you start throwing 3 or 4 things at an audience in the screen, their brain can't compute, oh, that car should be going faster or slower, or that grass is going too fast. It just starts to warp in their mind. And I knew that it would be an extremely cool shot to have a car on a crane, have it traveling, and I wanted someone to run into the front tire.
Going like this.
And I've got a wonderful crew. A lot of them have been with me 16, 17, 18 years. But my crew was like, how are you gonna do this shot? I don't get it. We kept having meetings about it. I said, guys, I don't wanna have any more meetings about it. Enough talk, just get me 3 air mortars, get me a crane that can move the car 10 feet and make a very, very soft foam tire so the stuntman can't hit his face very hard. So when we did this shot, I just told the stuntman to run hard at this tire, hit his face. The secret sauce, there's always secret sauce in my shots. The glasses and the goop in his mouth. He just had to spit it out to make it look like he's getting whacked in the face. And then finally, when I showed them the Phantom Flex at speed, at very high rate of speed, maybe shot it. I'm not gonna give that. I'm not gonna give it to future directors. They'll figure it out on their own.
Oh.
But I showed the crew and they're like, oh, I get it, I get it.
That's great, Jack.
You know, I've done enough big scale movies where there's a point when it's just, here's the menu of what I need to make my shots. I will tell you on the day, this is how we're going to do it. And let's cut this meeting short because I have other meetings to attend to. When you watch the rhythm of the movie, it's a slower burn, it's a slower build. There's not a lot of wham-bam action right in the front, intentionally. And then when they get on that spaceship, there's a series of big set pieces all in a row. It keeps going. We were the first movie in the world to use the IMAX 3D digital camera. And it really, when you see that cable sequence, especially the way it was meant to be shown, which is in IMAX,
Oh my God.
you really get this sensation when you walk out on the cables.
Don't look down, okay?
And so what I try to do with my action is I will go from the very big epic shot to the small, minute face shots of Tessa freaking out on the cables. Literally just having a semi-panic attack just from sheer fear of heights.
I'm not moving! I'm going back to the ship!
My style is to do something small like that, and then you just, bam, you whack them with the 2 F-22s passing by.
Oh, shit.
If you watch through the style of the movie, that's kind of what I'm doing with my action. In beating out the script, it became apparent very early on that I was zeroing in on a major city that had big green lush hills next to a big urban building area. And that leaves you basically with Rio, Hawaii, Oahu, and Hong Kong. Visually, I'd been to Hong Kong, and I've always thought it was a stupendous place to shoot a movie.
Climb, climb, surround them.
I had seen that apartment building in Hong Kong, and it's just, I knew right when I saw it, I want to do an action scene that's very parkour down this crazy place. I think there's 30,000 people that live in this place. To do this scene, we had to reconstruct a lot of the upper roofs just for weight.
We should put a camera while they're getting handheld. They're gonna throw a bunch of stuff off. We'll see it all fall towards us.
Once we strengthened the roofs, you then have 2 actors that are scared of heights. That's a whole other issue you gotta deal with. I wouldn't do it, but I've had a lot of experience dealing with actors like that because generally they're afraid of heights. I'm afraid of heights, but you basically get in their face and say, what are you doing? You're gonna get up there. These guys are pros, get on the cable, let's go.
All right, everyone ready? Here we go, and roll cameras.
And unbeknownst to me, When you shoot in Hong Kong, they have a whole different style. They are not allowed to lock down anything. No roads, no streets, nothing. And I'm not used to that at all. But an example, a car chase, this is how they do it in Hong Kong. We're shooting on the roads. We would have stunt people that would sort of block, slow the freeway as we have other stunt people now in a street that's kind of clear from our group slowing the traffic in a way. We're in a van with a door open here and a back door open there and 2 cameramen, handheld, a lot of it's handheld, and just kind of raw.
Oh, get out of the way!
And it is fun shooting like that, I gotta tell you.
Go, go, go!
There's a lot of humanity there, and they don't stop for anything. With so much humanity in Hong Kong, we had to supplement Hong Kong by using Detroit.
All right, let's go again.
I've been to Detroit so many times. I was one of the first guys to shoot in Detroit before it was hip to shoot in Detroit, going all the way back to Transformers 1, even the island before that. That's where we were able to do a lot of big physical stuff. We used it for the massive car pulls and the big drops. Because I'm still an old school director and using a lot of very real effects. I just like moving big things very close to the camera to keep it real. In the midst of this big dropping section, we call it the backwards drive, we tried this brand new Austrian robotic camera. We're the first to use it. Amir, my amazing DP, found it. It was a very complicated rig. It's a robotic arm that might have 7 different axes. When you look at the backwards drive, you can see we come through the skylight. We are looking in the back seat. We kind of pull around Mark, and Mark looks outside the window. That's actually happening, not blue screen. That's all happening when they're really driving and stuff is going on and extras are running around. And again, going from the big epic action outside to the stuff right inside with our people.
Oh my God!
Early on, I wanted to really get them inside. We call it the Noodle Shop, where they drive inside. So now we don't have to see the massive world outside. It's a way of being more cost-effective, but still keeping the fear in the audience's minds of what's happening outside as this ship is pulling these soup ladles and the car pulling up through the roof and whatnot.
Car! Right behind you.
I knew when I got to the silo scene that I wanted to make it just about our cast and the 3 of them. The 3 of them that started in this little innocent place called Texas, and it was those 3 that were gonna help with Optimus and Bumblebee. They were gonna help take down Lockdown. So I wanted a very close quarter kind of fight, and everyone doing kind of the one thing that, the best of what they like, Jack being the driver, Mark having that alien gun, and Nicola doing anything to save her dad.
Drive!
But then there is also the imaginary action. On these days where there's nothing in the frame, and I mean nothing.
2, 1, fire.
These are days where the crew just goes by my lead and I try to explain this is what's going on. I've got a previs for it.
4 seconds of transformation, and then he starts running.
I'm telling the camera operators this is how long you want to pan. This is how long it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
He punches on 2, so you're panning, okay?
Believe it or not, it's as simple sometimes as gravity. That's why I have a tennis ball. Throw it up and you count how many seconds it takes to fall down. That will sometimes give us the hang times of certain characters flying through the air just to get it right, physics-wise. It's an odd tool, but believe it or not, it really works. These movies are extremely fun to do. You're showing the true goodness of the Autobots, good fighting evil, with good, hardcore, fun action. That's what I keep trying to do with these movies, time and time again.
You like that?
It's the next chapter. It is not reinventing it. It's not a reboot in the way people traditionally say that. We acknowledge what's happened before, so in that sense, it's a continuation. But because it's a brand new human cast, it is a whole nother chapter.
But we're definitely trying to do something fresh and different. I love the first 3 movies, but we're just trying to do our own thing.
So we needed new cars, new robots, new characters, because that's what the audience is hungry for, injecting a lot of fresh elements.
Bringing in new heroes and Autobots is another key that brings it to a new level.
Hound is a great new character, voiced by John Goodman. His vehicle is an Oshkosh truck, which is very militaristic and powerful, and that's his character. Drift is the black and blue Bugatti, voiced by Ken Watanabe. And as a samurai, he's very elegant in terms of his fight moves.
He was going to be a black and orange Bugatti. That changed because the car that we were going to use was sold, because they only make a few of these cars.
Crosshairs is a green Chevrolet Corvette Stingray.
What we wanted to try and make was a character that wore a duster. So what I did is I took a Corvette, and what would happen if you cut it and then flayed it open.
Just look at the characters and what they become and how realistic they are as characters.
Michael went to a very big effort to make these guys character-driven, more human-like.
As the technology has advanced, we're able to get more emotion from them and really be able to identify with them.
They do have much bigger personalities, and you get to know them a lot more.
We introduced triple changers, which they've never had before in Transformers.
It's good to introduce new bad guys. The introduction of Lockdown is a big deal. He's a badass character. In car form, he's a Lamborghini.
Who is able to go underwater, which we've never seen an underwater character.
And Stinger is the Pagani, the arch enemy of Bumblebee. Galvatron is a brand new Freightliner truck that was custom made for the movie.
Galvatron in the original Transformers mythology is a kind of reborn, reconstituted Megatron. We wanted to pay homage to that idea, but do it a little differently than it had been done before. His physical form in this version is a man-made human creation.
And then it just goes over the top in a great way with the Dinobots, one of the most sought-after characters of Grimlock, with Optimus Prime and Bumblebee. You can't miss with that combination.
My initial pitch for this movie didn't involve an adult at its center. But before Michael had any sense of what he wanted visually or what he wanted in terms of action set pieces, he, from the beginning, and wisely so, decided that he wanted a protagonist for this movie that was completely different from the protagonist that the previous 3 movies had involved. So he was very adamant that the core character story be about a father and his daughter.
Dad, you can't keep spending money on junk.
I think the idea of a father-daughter story, there's a lot of emotion, a lot of poignancy to that relationship, and that grounds the movie and keeps it very centered.
Being able to ground this movie in a way where it's not just about a boy in his car, but making family the key to it is something that we're really excited about.
You know that the best thing that ever happened to me, do we look disappointed? It's the greatest day of my life.
We've never had the heart that this story has.
I'm not leaving my dad.
Once we decided that the core relationship for the human characters would be between a father and his daughter, Michael very much was all about trying to get Mark Wahlberg to do the movie.
You're in my house now, okay? I'm an engineer. My name is Kate Yeager.
Giving the Transformer franchise a new cast was a big job. It started with Mr. Mark Wahlberg. We became great friends on Pain and Gain.
And at some point in there, the conversation began between the two of them about whether or not, he'd be interested in coming into the franchise.
Can we put some debris on him, please? Put some stuff in his hair?
Once Mark said he was into doing it, then it became about Aaron writing a story around Mark and building a character for him.
Took a hell of a hit, you know. Missile just missed your power source.
We call it a spark.
Beyond being a movie star, he's an adult. He's a male action hero. That's a different vibe than what we've done previously.
It's opened up a whole new window of how you look at the lead character and how the lead character interacts in the movie.
Take that gun down right as that dolly's arriving, all right? Okay. Don't take it down before. It'll be cooler when we meet you.
I like the fact that I'm now playing the dad. I'm embracing getting older. It's happening, it's inevitable, so I might as well embrace it.
Mark is one of the most hardworking people I've ever met in my entire life. He's so prepared.
Part of his process is him reading the script over and over and over. He knows everybody's dialogue.
And yet, he never showboats with it. He never throws it in your face. He doesn't want you to know that he got up, when you were sleeping to work out 3 times before he came to set that morning, and that he produced 7 television shows before you had your breakfast, and that he just got thrown off the side of a building, by a Decepticon. He is the real deal.
What's great about Mark is there's a very American aspect to who he is. There's a certain amount of average Joe about him. And that serves this plot in a great way because we meet him as a character who is living a precarious financial situation in his life, like many people in our country.
He is skilled and talented, but life hasn't entirely gone the way he planned it to. So it was important to us in a story that's dealing with how private enterprise is trying to take advantage of Transformer technology, to have a character who is comfortable dealing with technology, but has no worldly goals for himself in mind other than trying to provide the best life he can for his family.
Yes, you can take a ride with your friends.
Okay. Don't work all night.
Don't try this at home, kids.
Dad! There's a missile in the family room!
The 2 kids were fantastic to work with. It's a hard deal to come into this franchise. It's such a massive production.
They're young and they're new.
Just yell as loud as you can. Get in the car, all right? Okay? Gotta amp it up.
It's pretty much the deep end for Jack and Nicola.
Don't put it in reverse. I want to see you go into reverse, okay?
It was kind of young actor boot camp.
3, 2, 1, go!
It was just a matter of having them understand how vigorous the pace would be.
Go back!
And that you have to be ready for anything. Whoa, look at that.
I did not expect that.
Good, huh?
Paying attention to everything that's going on in the script, even if you're in a scene where you don't necessarily have dialogue, so you're just kind of showing up on that day. No, you need to understand everything that's going on around you, and there's a lot of moving parts.
3, 2, 1, action!
Especially when you've done smaller things, television. The scale at which we're doing things is overwhelming to people who've done scale.
There's a huge physical aspect in this film. It was really intense.
To suddenly be thrown in that, and you're trying to find yourself as an actor, and wait, there's these creatures that are there, but I can't see them, but I have to learn to act with them.
Looking back. Robot goes right over you, looking right up and over you, and getting into the car.
At the same time, I have really accredited actors I'm playing against, and oh my God.
It's an incredible experience to be able to come on the set of a film like this every day and do things that you actually watch in these movies. And I feel very honored to be there and to be part of it.
I was really proud of both their performances.
And there's a real long line of actors and actresses that have brought something to this franchise that is special.
And look, bad guys are important. Kelsey and Titus are great bad guys. Kelsey is not known, I think, as much, you know, for that type of role, but he's awesome. Titus is a great bad guy, too. I mean, I think his line where he says to Mark, I'm James Savoy, I'm a federal agent. I go, I want to be that guy when I grow up, right?
They're very different to any of the characters that we've seen before in the Transformers series because they really mean to get out there and get the job done, even if they hurt people. Even if they hurt innocent people, they make no bones about it.
Fewer than a dozen Decepticons are still on the run, thanks to our CIA unit, Cemetery Wind.
Spoy and I are twinned in spirit about what we're trying to do, and that is to make sure that we're protecting our planet.
As for the alien technology, our objective remains to keep it in American control.
But we're both on the good team as far as we're concerned.
So I'm sort of the tip of his spear. He delegates to me, and I take the action. We don't waste any time. Kelsey and I just, you know, we get it done. If we don't like what's happening, we change it very quickly.
You have no idea what you're involved with here. All you need to know is that I alone can get you out.
I think in the end you believe that this man could exist, and that if he does exist, you should be scared of him. But there's a couple of moments in this where I'm a little dry, maybe, and you might get a laugh.
It's this close to winning. That's what I'm upset about.
If you look at every Michael Bay movie, they're all funny. You know, there's probably only one movie in that whole group that doesn't have a tremendous amount of humor because it wasn't supposed to be funny. There's a reason why they're funny. Michael's a funny guy.
And he also loves to collaborate with comedians.
What are you gonna do, play around with it?
I like play with it.
Play with it. What are you gonna do, play with it? So do you want to land on that and just drop the joke about the barn loud?
Yeah.
A lot of it is improvisational. I'm an improviser by trade.
You can't just keep an alien in your barn. What are you gonna do, play with it? If you die, that GTO is mine.
Okay, good. Let's go again.
If he eats you, I get the GTO.
You know you're on a roll if he comes out from behind the monitors and he's crying and the crew is stifling laughter. So it's been really quite an experience. And I think that Lucas, you know, who's the character that I play, but I talk about him in third person because I think he talks about me in the third person. I know I do when I'm him talking about me.
Mike loves his comedy. TJ is one of the ways that he delivers that. Stanley delivers a lot of that comedy as well.
Really? You want to do this now, huh? Can we just get this alien taking, beeping bomb to the bridge? Come on!
He does make my job very difficult, I have to say, because he is so funny. And I got into trouble, I think, day 1 or 2, where Michael said, you know, Michael Bay said, you're ruining my shot, you can't laugh at him. And I said to Kelsey Grammer, I was like, dude, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do? And Kelsey, you know, having worked in comedy himself for so long, he said, honey, you just gotta freeze him. Freeze him.
Now I can't imagine anyone else playing Joshua Joyce. We wanted Joshua to be a different version of what Cade is. Someone who, in his heart, is a real optimist and creative and an inventor, but his success has twisted that into something somewhat megalomaniacal.
Algorithm!
So part of this movie is a redemption story for Joshua, finding a way to get him back to the Cade-like inventor that once upon a time he was.
His conscience gets the better of him, and he flips.
Then you have Li Bingbing, who gets kind of caught in the middle.
Between Su Yuemi and Joshua, in China we would say one is red face, another one is white face. You know what? He always very funny and very like a little bit stupid, but for funny way. And I am always very straight and serious and very tough.
Let's see, what can I say? Because she says no.
No, 不是我们吃了，是你吃了，听到吗？是你。
You know, sorry, but actually, maybe I don't even say the Mandarin thing. Just say, you know I can't understand you when you're angry. Like, just totally disregard. Do you know what I mean? Is that funnier? Or is that?
We can try both. Try both.
Yeah, try both. Yeah. You know I don't understand you when you're angry.
He is the boss of me, but it's like I am the boss of him.
Action, Batman, action!
Government's hacked into the others. He's activating them all.
Suyama controlled him.
And then the next thing you know, she's kicking ass and saving the day as well.
She's tough, yeah. I would not want to get on the wrong side of Bing Bing.
I love you.
Get to the room.
The cast is really important to the movie and to Michael. Mike is really responsive to them as a group of actors, and I think that elevates the film.
I think we've had good fortune in this franchise to have some really talented actors come and play with robots and dinosaurs and cars.
A new era has begun.
Oh my God!
This is not war. It's human extinction.
I think our cars are not just cars. They are characters in the movie. And when people see the Autobots lined up in the street, it's different than 5 cars. They are 5 characters, and they are the Autobots. So, you know, people get excited about it. They want to have their picture taken, and it's a big deal. We pull from the Hasbro library, you know, the rich list of characters that they have.
And there's an infinite supply of Transformer characters. I mean, it's amazing. And the mythology is so many of them.
Then you start calling up the car companies and opening it up a little bit and see who's interested in participating. And in this case, you know, we've had a great response. One of the things that we always try to do is give the vehicles sort of a facelift, if you will. Optimus, you know, has had some tweaks in the first 3 films, but on this movie, he got a complete overhaul with Daimler and Western Star. So he's a brand new vehicle altogether this time.
The Western Star is a custom build from almost every detail all the way up. I think the only piece that would be common to a production Western Star is the door panel and the beginning of the sleeper cab. Everything else that you're seeing, from the hood to the bump to the grille to the bumper to the rocker panels to the fenders, is all custom for our show. And the flames was a very exciting part of the design process. Number one, how do we begin with, as a departure, the flames that we've looked at for the last 3 movies and create something that's wholly new and fresh for the project, but also brings us back to and has a dialogue with some of the design cues from the old Optimus, so you still knew that we were looking at the same character. I did the initial concept work for the flames. That was then handed to an artist that was working with the Daimler group to refine those flames. And then we worked with a painter who had laid out his first stripe job on a hot rod in 1962 and has been in paint booths painting hot rods out of Southern California ever since. But I think my favorite aspect of this truck in particular is the stance from the nose and how we were to develop in the face of the car a truck rendition of the Optimus Prime robot. The headlights are completely custom built. The hood ornament is a complete custom build. The sheet metal visor and the tightness of the windscreen just really pulls the entire vehicle together and makes it a very mean, very aggressive, but also very recognizable character for the feature.
Want to hook these wires back to a working battery?
And then they have the Hiding Optimist, which was an old Marmon truck, which they couldn't make it in 1993, which is like the coolest old square truck. You can't go with the conventional long nose because he's hiding. So he's got to be a little bit different.
So he's kind of done a chameleon effect and made himself look really old, decrepit, so
He's not looking like he usually does, so people wouldn't even think of him hiding because it's just an old truck. And so we're making it look old and rusted, like it's been there a long, long time. It's been a really fun project. You don't get something like this very often.
I drove the old beat-up Optimist on our first day of shooting out in Utah. I was driving that one, was pretty cool. Because they were like, you can't drive the truck. I said, dude, my dad was a Teamster, drive a double clutch 13 speed. So, you know, I used to sit on his lap when I was 12 years old and drive like this. You know, he'd let me hold the wheel. So that was pretty cool.
The Optimus Prime trucks take their design cues from the hot rod world, from the trucking world. For the Galvatron project, we looked more towards the industrial design world to create a clean look that we would expect from a high-end robotics company such as KSI. The base model for the truck is an Australian market Freightliner Argosy. It's very, very different from the Optimus Prime Western Star, in which it's a cab-over designed for the Australian or European markets. The truck is over height for American roads, which establishes its large nature appropriate to the character Galvatron for the film. And with any of the robot vehicles, there's a constant dialogue with Michael with regards to the personality of the vehicle. Michael's cue to the designers was constantly to make it meaner, to make it stronger. The designer Jeffrey Beecroft's input was to make it continuously more high-tech, more clean-lined and appropriate to a very contemporary product design market. In the same sense that the robots are distinct and individual characters within the project, we have pushed and developed and ideated the design of the trucks to be personalities in and amongst themselves.
I think the general idea is to concentrate on a freshness. So Bumblebee is redesigned.
We took a Chevrolet Camaro Super Sport. We took the whole front end off of it. We cut the whole back end off of it. We made a whole new front end and a whole new back end. This vehicle has the hood on it because we're still pre-fitting all of the gaps and everything else to make sure that those are factory. This is one of the ways that we block out when we know how far to go is they'll put a surface coat on it and then they sand through, and when all of that is gone, they know that they've reached the primer and it's smooth. So that's what he's doing now. There's a lot of effort and heart and soul that go into each of the vehicles that we make. When all is said and done, this car will probably have around 3,000 hours in it. The color and the overall paint scheme is a lot different as well. This is a candy color, so it's very difficult to match the paint. So if you scratch or dent a door, you're doing the whole side, which is different than before. Before it was a metallic, now it's a candy. It's a three-stage, so you have your base color, your candy, and then your clear coat over the top. The rear end is much wider and much more aggressive than the previous models. It also has a more aggressive rear spoiler. And then the front headlights are significantly different. They're much more narrow, kind of giving the vehicle more character. The hood, the roof, and the back all get stripes, and then the whole vehicle in general is a lot more aggressive from a styling standpoint.
It's a Michael Bay movie. It's got to be something that's special that not everybody can get or everybody can have.
This is worth $15 million.
That Corvette is one of the most amazing cars I've ever seen. So I have to say, out of all these cars, I'm taking the Corvette.
This is the 1959 Racing Stingray. It was the first Corvette ever called a Stingray. And it also has a little Hollywood history also, because Elvis Presley drove this car in the movie Clam Bake.
I want this one for my wall.
I like the muscle cars, and I like that, I think it was a '69 Riviera that was out in front of the theater.
Just beautiful, you know, all white, mint condition. One of those cars that you can't not walk over and look inside of.
I like the new Lamborghini. That's kind of a great car.
Turn it towards me now, turn it towards me.
That's like the cool car. A Lamborghini's a cool car, come on.
Ah, that's a good shot.
That Corvette.
There's a Bugatti.
And the Pagani.
This is the Pagani Huara. It's a one-of-a-kind, hand-built, Italian-made. It's very torturous to drive slow in this kind of car.
You know, I'm really not a car guy, I have to say. I'm not, but there were a couple cars there that were pretty incredible. The Bugatti and the Pagani. I mean, they're really amazing, beautiful works of art. Of course, they're all Italian.
That is a lyric ballad, an epic ode. And you've brought me a dirty limerick. That toxic clutch grinder wishes it was this car.
And then there's the old Bumblebee, the Hiding Bumblebee. So at 67, we found one that was almost where we wanted it to be, and then we kind of finished it.
Bumblebee's gonna start going, wow, 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 wow. He's gonna spin his thing. He's then gonna back up. He's gonna start throwing donuts in here.
You're dealing with very, very expensive cars on this. So the margin of error is you don't have any margin of error, because if you mess up, you're gonna go home.
Hey guys, let's not have be close to this $2 million car like this, okay?
You know, like?
Thank you. Can we move this car over 5 feet, please? This is expensive.
Responsible for the floor. Near some very expensive cars. That was a little intimidating.
Gotta get this curtain dropped here for the crash. Background slightly walking, and now she come out on the street. And run into the street, and run.
This is a 2013 Chevy Sonic, which has been completely redesigned for the movie. The overall look of it looks like a modified Sonic. So if a kid took a Sonic and tore it apart and put their own panels and stuff on it, that's what it looks like. We've conferred with all the stunt guys from pretty much the beginning, and we've spec'd out everything that they require, they want, they need, making sure the cars, especially the stunt cars, are as safe as humanly possible. So what you're seeing here is a fully reinforced, fully caged vehicle. You can roll this car as many times as you want to, and it won't crash.
3, 2, 1, action! Go, Jack!
Get in the car, Daddy!
Come on, baby, get in the car, let's go!
Jack is, I think, born to be a race car driver. He has one speed, and it's fast.
Well, I was brought up watching Formula One. That's, you know, a big one for us at home. I've been working with the stunt guys for 6 weeks, maybe. And I'm just driving as much as I can, just getting as much wheel time in as I can. So we started out with really basic stuff like cone slaloms. Now we're on to kind of like drifting, doing 180s and all that kind of thing. A lot of e-brake.
Basically, just get the feel of a rally car. You know, obviously on the day, we're gonna have a car with 700 horsepower, fully race competitive, you know, that level of a car.
It's gonna be all-wheel drive. Just like this Evo right here.
This is basically our beater car. He came here with some good fundamentals, and we're just giving him the time and the instruction he needs to take to the next level. So we're just teaching him how to shift, how to get back in control, dealing with uneven terrain, all of those things that he's got to be dealing with all at the same time. Also having to be able to act while he's doing all these things, you know? He's got his mind going 3 or 4 different directions. So to me, it's just repetition. I can't say it enough.
All right, Jack, so here's the deal. So you're gonna come up hot first gear. When you get halfway to the cone, pull the e-brake, cut the wheel hard to the left. As soon as the car turns a 180, power back on it, steer towards your mark, come around to the side, and slide the opposite side 90 right to these cones. All right, send it. Nice, nice. Perfect, that's good right there. That's exactly what you want. He's a fast learner. It's not very often we get a chance to drive with somebody who can pick it up really fast. I mean, he drives just as fast, his reactions are just as fast, and his moves are just as crisp as like some of the top stunt guys I've worked with.
Here we go. Boom, right by the boys. Wanna go again?
I love cars, and I always have, so to be able to get behind the wheel and to be drifting and actually throwing a car around is just so much fun.
movie's very rural in Texas in the beginning as opposed to urban, you know, which is what we've spent most of the franchise inside of. So I think it's a nice taste of something different. It's a different look, you know, with the beautiful sunsets and all that in Texas. And it starts the movie out in a nice, slow way.
It's beautiful. The light.
Michael has something that draws him to Texas. Michael feels that Texas as a state and as an image is heroic. He knew that Cade had to come from Texas. This father, this hero.
We scouted for the Cade house for months and months and months.
We combed through Texas. We went through the whole Austin area. We went through the whole Dallas area. We looked at Waxahachie. We know Paris, Texas.
We probably scouted over 200 houses to get that right.
Was furnished for a house full of children. So we basically had to strip it and start over and try to come up with character notes for Cade. He's constantly out of money. He doesn't have money to buy a lot of new furniture, but he's a guy with taste. He's constantly looking around trying to find cool parts to make things with. So we used the idea that he's a picker. He's able to pick. He's picked the coolest things in the world. So we did a lot of thrift store shopping and antique store shopping around the Austin area.
So one of the challenges with Cade's house was the fact that we wanted a relatively small house, but a giant barn to accommodate Optimus. And the two never really went together. The barn at the house was pretty small, so what we did an extension on it, and then we cut to an interior of a cotton gin in Elgin, Texas, which was a huge cavernous interior.
It was completely empty when we got here.
Everything you see in here, we brought in. Every piece, every light, everything except for the pigeons. We started about 12 weeks ago with the idea that it was a cotton barn originally. So we wanted to give a little back history. We have some old farm implements in here that could have been left over from his dad or the previous owner.
We've decided on areas that would be the blacksmith area. We've got an area with welding tools. There's a woodworking area, of course, a lounge and a gym, because we all know that Mark Wahlberg and Cade are very fit people, so they spend some time working out. And then, of course, the robotics area.
We did our robot search all over the country, actually all over the world, looking for lifestyle robots that could be the next $1 million idea for Cade.
We went through quite a long time of vetting and figuring out what Michael liked and what style he liked.
What we're really looking for is not professional robots you would find in Detroit in a factory. We're looking for something that somebody that was an enthusiast had made. Maybe a really smart enthusiast, as Cade is.
Here we go.
We really enjoyed getting to know that community. They're really wonderful people.
Delivering things still work. My robots tend to be a little bit unusual in nature. I also build them from more common materials, let's say, and they don't have that polished commercial look to them.
What's the estimated time of arrival usually, average?
I think they liked the fact that they looked that way, that they looked homemade.
There's some sensors on it, but those are disabled for the most part, just so it does the exact same thing every time, as much as possible. He's happy to be here. Any mood wants.
Working with Michael's interesting as well. Getting the robots to work on demand for him has been challenging. But I've enjoyed the challenge.
Probably the best part of this is being able to see all of the gadgets. Also, the attention to detail is amazing.
Had a good morning this morning. We started this morning at very early, first light. We did some helicopters flying around. Cars coming up that road, that road. First we'll do the tow truck coming up. And then we'll do the Savoy vehicles coming up.
3 Suburbans come up this way. Titus, this is gonna be your car? Beautiful.
Got some really good stuff going.
Standing out here in a super hot Texas field.
It's hot.
It's hot.
Now I'm gonna do something, it's a crouching run, it's a signature acting move of mine. I call it a crun. And you'll see me, I mean, you know, Mark's in the shot too, but it's mostly all about me. Just crouching as I run in a banana fashion, and then I do a tree cower, okay? Or a trower.
Optimus Prime busted out of the garage. We blew the doors out for that.
There's gonna be a good loud pop out of the door. If you need ear protection, Props has it.
So the pole represents where Optimus probably is standing after he's on the run coming out of the barn. He won't be sitting still when you see it in the film. And so then here's the truck that gets flipped. It'll be a near miss where Optimus almost gets hit by the missile, but the truck gets hit instead.
And then he runs around out front and he starts blasting up the soldiers at this end.
3, 2, 1, go!
Well, what's going to motivate them guys flying through the air is rocket hits. We're putting in some black powder lifters. Pretty benign stuff, some topsoil, a little bit of broken up cork. When we set them off, big boom of dirt. They fly through the air. Looks great.
One missile is fired by Optimus, and it goes shooting out of the barn. And accidentally goes into the farmhouse, and the farmhouse blows up.
We had to blow up their real house, but we put a fake front facade on the porch. So we used the porch and we drywalled the whole inside of the porch, put the mortars in, and then put fake walls up where the porch posts are.
This is a real house right here, all this black wall, and it is protected so that nothing happens to it. This is the phony wall here, all deaded out, ready to go like nobody's business.
You don't want to put like one Kenny pack that shoots dust bomb like out that way.
You can do that right next to the back porch.
Yeah, so you really gets, yeah. So you
from the back in the side.
It really just gives a streamer just whoosh. Yeah?
Got it.
All right, here we go.
There was a facade here that blew out. It looked like the exterior of the house, just like that. There was a little bit of damage. Some of the inner windows blew because of the concussion. I think one of the posts needs some repair. That is an important part of supporting the house, but other than that, it went really well.
Farms are fun, but they're more fun when you're blowing them up, I think is the consensus.
Action, guys.
It's been really, really strange to be trying to keep up with Wahlberg.
Come on, run!
Because we'll run 100 yards and Michael Bay will be saying, let's go, we gotta reset.
Let's go one more time.
We got the choppers going.
Send the helicopter.
We got all the SUVs going. People are firing rounds. So we'll run back and Wahlberg doesn't even break a sweat.
All right, cameras ready, guys?
Action, 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 action. Come on. Come on.
And I'm just trailing behind like, Wahlberg was in 2 guns, you know? He was in the shooter. I was recently at a Hardee's.
And cut.
Well, we're in Taylor, Texas. Small town. Yeah, it's a pretty quiet town. Nothing really happens.
All right, we're rolling. Ready?
Nothing big.
You're sending warning shots above. Ba. All right? Did it look good? Good. Yeah? All right, let's move.
It was 3 weeks of filming all the great, iconic little towns around Austin.
Day 12. Lovely Lockhart, Town Square.
We kind of cobbled Elgin, Taylor, and Lockhart, and we cobbled bits and pieces together to create this small town, but it had lots of alleys and squares, and it still had that small town feel, but gave us enough real estate to have this rally car chase.
4 full loads are gonna go. Blowing this. He's coming through. You all know where you're going. B-14.
had the car pipe ramp and cannon through a cotton truck. The speed of the two cars coming down is 40 miles an hour. First cannon car is going first, then the pipe ramp car is going second.
We have an air mortar and a primer cord ring to blow the cotton up in the air to accentuate the impact as they hit.
We're in 97-degree heat up on top of the hill. Very limited vision, traveling 40 miles an hour. I hit the button at the right time. You feel the cannon, boom, and then you're flipping, and then you feel the impact of the ground, and bang! You're like, oh, that was serious. And then someone else, I see a shadow of a bumper, bow! And I'm like, oh, there's that. And it comes to a stop, and I'm like, okay, we're good. It was absolutely as safe as you could possibly make that.
Fantastic. We finish up here tomorrow and on to Michigan for the next 7 weeks.
That was great.
This is the first time that one of the movies in the franchise has traveled the entire schedule. You know, we needed to inject some fresh locations, which Mike is very passionate about.
We have started this movie in the most incredible place, Monument Valley. From there, we went to Austin, Texas, Hong Kong, state of Washington, Beijing, Chicago. Now we're in Detroit.
We filmed at GM locations in Detroit and Michigan for 2 months.
General Motors bought into the Transformers franchise with the rest of us from the start when nobody knew if this was a good idea for a movie. They've given us access to things that you wouldn't expect they would normally be willing or able to do.
We were at their proving grounds, which is where they test all their vehicles. It's an amazing freeway and road system.
It was great because we had these freeway-type situations without any other traffic on there. It was great.
This is where the robots are running down, chasing the group. This Winnebago is parked, and the big trailer is jackknifing and slamming into here. It jumps over the jackknife truck, jumps on this wall, and crashes through the big semi, 48-foot semi-trailer.
We're rolling camera, crane moving.
Then we were at their Lansing plant, where we were on the factory line.
The higher-end production line in Lansing, we turned into KSI China.
And it was hugely beneficial to us because the background that we got with just being there was, we couldn't create that. It was such a gift. And then we were at the tech center.
Okay, we're at Warren, Michigan at the General Motors Tech Center campus, and we're at the Aerodynamics Wind Tunnel.
It's got a great sound.
We have a 4,500 horsepower motor that turns a 43-foot diameter fan.
Sound, you also need to get a separate sound of this thing, okay?
It's been wonderful having Transformers here. Our day-to-day testing is a lot of fun. We do a lot of interesting things here.
All right, stay there.
Right, if we all got soaked in there.
But this is a nice change from our day-to-day activity.
Go!
I'm under no illusions that we got to do some very special things.
Are you going to invent this way out of this one?
Filming in their giant wind tunnel, nobody's ever done that before, and I doubt anybody ever will again.
All right, daylight this way, come on.
We were able to find a wonderful location for the CIA in Detroit, which is the design building of GM, which is a marvelous office that was designed by Eero Saarinen. This fabulous mid-century modern feel.
Well, I was fascinated by that place. Beautiful reflecting pools, the dome, and that staircase with the water underneath the staircase, and the way the landscaping was. It was so quintessentially post-war modern architecture. All Eero Saarinen. I mean, it was beautiful.
It was a fantastic experience. Amazing architecture, amazing facilities. And that was a really great partnership and a really great synergy between GM and Transformers.
They're really a part of the fabric. They're part of the look. They're part of the support. They're really part of the Transformers family.
we shot the spaceship in around the Detroit area in Michigan.
The lockdown craft, let's call it, was a big deal, design-wise.
The prison ship is really a departure from what has been done before for Transformers, because this ship came from another planet, another world. It had nothing to do with Cybertron. I wanted to create something that we hadn't seen before. The idea of the ship is it's almost built like a cathedral. Different illustrators, different gamers worked with me extensively on this ship, and with Michael, who really got involved in the ship as well.
That's what you got. Good.
Transformers, for the most part, have always gone into real locations and not built as much as this, where you're building a whole ship that it was all built at 23 feet.
It's completely different than anything you'll see because, of course, it's made for the proportion of Transformers, and the robots are often 30 feet tall.
Ready? I want her like a. All right, ready?
Wait.
Ready? Ready? And 3, 2, 1, go! Go.
I really like the prison ship stuff. Because it's just, you walk in, it's like a whole other world. It's like dark and like slimy and steamy, and it's just, you walk in and you feel like you're somewhere else. It's really cool.
Jeffrey and Mike came up with a way to design it and execute it. There was a lot of modular pieces, basically.
There were 8 to 10 pieces that were able to be recombined into various shapes and reused. We made it as pieces that could interlock and be spun around, and so you could get a whole lot of different looks out of it to create corridors and walkways.
And when we need big open spaces of the ship, like where the landing bays are or anything like that, we literally can shoot off this way into green screen and then duplicate that. We've got really massive, amazing sets, but we still have to supplement with green. So what we do is we photograph pieces of this set to recreate what would be the panels of all the walls that are missing right now. So it's a really nice combination of the departments making this thing look good.
And action! And 1, 2, 3.
And then we added the concept of the kind of almost like the veins of the ship, and we added a ton of tubing and wild textures.
We've got 3 kinds of vines here. We call them vines, but are they natural? Are they mechanical? Who knows? Who can tell? That's where your mind fills in the blanks. So the idea is to make the room look like it's been here for a really long time, and that's what the layers of growth do. And this weapon room is an ancient part of the ship. It's kind of a spiritual space.
The swords themselves were based on museum research made by hand by my crew. Some of the swords were 30 feet long. They're enormous, and they were hung up on these giant hooks. And of course, it becomes a ladder for our characters to climb up and grab their weapons.
Gotcha. Go on, and then Mark, come here, go like that. So you can go boom, right, like that. And then just give me some more, pop, 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 you know?
A couple of dagger guns with 50 cal Smith & Wesson's internal. Alien weapon with real American technology inside to make it fire.
Action!
We're in the grinder right now, what we consider the grinder, which is part of the interior of the spaceship. This is where they're getting ready to take the car into the disposal area, which, as you can tell, is only a partial of a set again, and it will be in CG the rest of the balance of the set.
You're going like on 1, okay? Keep a little motion going, that thing goes on. Go, okay? Here we go. Ready, guys? Let's 1, action! And side, bam, okay? Yeah, scream it, and action!
I continue to be in awe at the scope and the size of the movie and what it takes to keep this whole thing running and how on top of it Michael is when it comes to every aspect of it.
Right here, I fired. Big wall, this goes up. They either turn around and look at it for a fraction of a second, and then they take off running, and they've made it in 4.6 seconds all the way out.
Michael actually had a technician come out of retirement for this one explosion because it was so huge.
All these troughs are going to fire, all the flash tubes and all the salutes are going to go off.
Boom, 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 boom. Well, they'll run through it, and I'll run about halfway, and then it's curtains for me. This is the end of it. I mean, not the end of filming yet, but this is the end of Lucas.
Roll it! Bang! Rock! Okay, they were right here. Got 4.6, baby.
Right on the money.
All Michael said was run as fast as you can and make sure your head's up.
Don't give me this, because that's what we'll get, because it's so slow motion, you'll be like that. You understand? So it's got to be, and like, you got to be looking to that water tower and just run it, you know what I'm saying?
That's cool, Jack. Were you yelling? Were you yelling? Were you yelling, Jack?
Richie? Master, you can go back to retirement now, okay? You're the master.
Good job, Richie.
Yeah, it's a beautiful city of Chicago. It's a great place. I love this town. Very welcoming, very hospitable.
Italian beefs and Chicago dogs. They will make you sick if you eat more than 2 in one sitting.
Scramble Cemetery win.
On all the other Transformers, with our monitor rooms, we've always built them on stage. On this one, we got permission to work in the Office of Emergency Management Communications in Chicago, which was technically a live 911 call center, and it was almost turnkey. We could go in there, shoot it, and then leave.
Team and assets are in place. Thank you for your efforts, ladies and gentlemen. This room is going dark. I'll take it from here.
Okay, let's go.
We shot at 300 East Randolph, which is the Blue Cross Blue Shield building.
You know, it's like people like it's like a bee, you know, like, you know, a bee coming at you, and a little freak out.
We are Mr. Joyce's assistants, Joshua's. He expects us to do everything without even having to be told or asked. Read his mind, basically.
Not ask stupid questions. Don't waste his time. Don't get fired.
Right. Make sure the doors sound the way he wants them to.
I asked for boundless, transcendent. You walk through a door in this building, it should sound like you've just stepped into the future.
Okay, good.
We shot down Roosevelt Bridge. Again, that was shoehorned between Bears games, Sox games, and college football games. That road's really difficult to close because that's a main artery into Chicago.
My marching orders are to sit here in the middle of this console beside Mark and Corey so that I don't have to jump out of the back of the car, because when I jump out of the back of the car, I'll show you how it looks. Now, this is Transformers, so everything has to be really smooth and fast, obviously, and graceful looking. But for me to get out of the back of this car with any speed kind of looks a bit like this. Like that. So I can't do that on the day. So instead I'm gonna sit on the middle bit and I'm gonna jump out like I was right there the whole time.
We filmed at McCormick Place, which is a huge conference center, very, very busy, and we managed to shoehorn ourselves into a really small, tight window of opportunity to film in one of their main exhibition halls, where we recreated kind of a robot morgue forensic lab, where Joshua is dissecting Transformers and seeing how they're built and made, so he can create his own.
The way this set came about is that as a child, I had gone to a plane reconstruction with my father that had been in a big accident. So as they were putting it back together and had all those pieces like a giant puzzle, I thought of this set as that. What we've done is tried to create it to give enough depth that you didn't have to CGI the whole thing. And we used everything from every lab we've done, every automotive part we could find, and truck and airplane part, and put it together and make it look clinical.
Hey! That's company property! They're not your property. They were my friends.
This is my 4th outing with the Transformers.
We are not your technology.
I run around the set basically being the voice of all of the robots that, you know, when they're in a scene, doing their dialogue.
Pleasure.
Glass in your forehead?
No, look, perfectly fine. I'm completely deaf, but it's all right.
Let's go, let's go.
In the Uptown Theater on the north side of Chicago. This was built in 1925, closed down in the 1980s. The hardest sell was to make this believable that it was a small town theater in Texas, because it's the biggest picture house in the country, over 4,000 seats.
Doesn't quite fit in the tiny town of Taylor, Texas, but Michael only shot a part of it.
You don't find it on many websites, even the Urban Explorer website. It's not open to the public. It's slightly mysterious. No one really knows what's behind these doors. The outside doesn't look very big, and you come through these doors and then walk into the theater and see 4,000 seats. No one ever expects to see that.
That's what makes Michael Bay great, is that he would choose this vast, expansive theater, you know, once grand, now dilapidated, which is true in real life, and have that be the place that we find Optimus Prime. And that could have been in a junkyard or a tow station or a car auction. There's plenty of places that would be the obvious choice.
How much for the truck?
The idea of the theater is pure magic, and we wanted it to look like a ghost was there. There's a whole sense in this whole film of ghosts and of age and of time gone by, and that's one of the reasons the locomotives and the ships and the barns. We shot in the original projection room that was up there. We brought in equipment to make it look old and haunted, and did a lot of dusting and used a lot of plastic and webbing and stuff to try and make this place look as old as possible.
It's fantastic. I hear they're going to restore it. That's a big job. That makes my my work on my kitchen at home look very manageable.
We were in the real heart of Chicago. We chose LaSalle. It's in the financial districts of the weekends. It's relatively quiet, and it's a real classic Chicago canyon. We chose it because it was a really long stretch where we could shoot the Decepticon fighter tail gunner ball bouncing down the street.
The gag was that the truck's getting hit, sideswiped by the gunship that broke apart. A piece of its pod hit it and knocks it off kilter and blows the end of the Bud truck up. It's a real nice effect. And then the pod kept on skidding and bouncing in the CG world through about 4 blocks down LaSalle.
This main Chicago street, and there's supposed to be all these extras like screaming because there's this other spaceship going above us, and I love days like that because there's so much going on. It's high energy and it's so fun.
Yeah, baby.
You know, we're gonna have a really amazing sequence here.
The light is now getting good.
Big explosion, a lot of craziness.
All right, enough fun and games here.
Dorothy driver here. You better have insurance. I got these scratches on my face today. I was driving my car, minding my own business, and an alien spaceship crashes into it. No, the usual. Pretty crazy stuff.
It's a freaking spaceship. You go get insurance on a freaking spaceship. Good luck with that, buddy. And then the other big closure we're doing is on Wacker.
We have a 3-block street closure on Wacker Drive, which is one of the major streets in Chicago. This set is supposed to be Hong Kong. We were looking for a lot of glass and steel, a lot of modern architecture like they have in Hong Kong. So we've covered every sign, every street sign. There's 168 street signs.
We're reversing the traffic, painting out the street markings.
Here we go, ready, everybody.
We try to be prepared for lots of curveballs because he's a very spontaneous and creative guy. So, you know, when he gets here, he's thinking up shots as we go. I have everybody's phone number in my cell phone. Any question, like they just decided they wanted to have a camera inside that lobby, so I call up the general manager, can we put a camera inside the lobby? I have people stationed at every single building to kind of create a playground for him.
Guys, we're rolling, guys. 4, 3, 2,
1. The city call it Lakeside, and it's the old US Steel site. Nothing there anymore. It's a 600-acre leveled site really close to Chicago. The only thing that remains are the iron ore walls, which were so hard and so substantial that it broke the machine that tried to take it down. That's why they're still standing.
We're looking at that blue band right there. Blue band. Okay, here we go. Mark. Ready. And 21,000.
A great backlot for us to create some Hong Kong tsunami type of events and have a bit of room to move.
That's what I'm talking about. Woo! It's going to be action. It all starts lifting on action. You know what I'm saying? 3, 2, 1, action.
The spaceship is a big giant magnet, and it's lifting all these metal things up. So it lifted the bus up, we had rigged on its side, lifted up, rolled it over, and the stunt people fell out through breakaway glass windows onto the ground.
We have stunt guys falling out, and as the bus starts flipping upside down, we go right under where the door would be, so directly under the bus, and then towards another convertible where other guys are then flying out of.
Oh, that's cool.
It's pretty exciting stuff. You have people literally within inches, not only running by the car, but also falling on top of the car, or falling right in front of the car. So a little bit of avoidance there, plus keeping a smooth path with the camera. It's a pretty exciting deal.
What we were trying to simulate here is that a boat was being lifted up and it was dropped into the water. Everything we did was the splash. And we had come up with this concept of using those tanks because you need to get a lot of water a lot of times. So dump tanks have been around since the beginning of movies. It's, you know, it's a device, holds a lot of water, lets a lot of water go at one time.
John Fraser built 6 of these dump tanks, 11,000 gallons each, and there's 6 of them up there with big trap doors that are fired by cutting a cable and dumping all the contents at once.
You need a lot of head pressure. Those tanks are 40 feet in the air. So when you let that water go, it moves things.
Are you pulling all of them? Cool. You do your you're looking out that way, and then you say back up, right away, okay? You don't move. 3, 2, 1, and action. Yeah, baby.
The bus, we had put a bunch of weights on the back top of it, and then we weakened the frame real good so that when it crushes, it accordion real flat on the ground and blew up simultaneously.
So this is the grand finale. We're supposed to be in Hong Kong, but we're at the Damon Silos, which is state-owned property for sale off the north side of the 55, going out of Chicago.
Quiet, guys. Let's roll on this 40, okay? Quiet. Ready, and dust, and boom.
As long as we left it in a safer or as safe condition as found, we could do pretty much anything we liked.
Okay, let's go hard, please, going hard.
These were silos built in, I think, 1930s.
Get out of here now!
And Michael came in and destroyed the shit out of them. Basically brought his chaos to Chicago.
Everything that we do in the movies is, we're not really ever blowing anything up.
I got it! I got it!
We're simulating.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. The helmet's filled.
When we blew up the 2 walkways that connect the silos, that was the real deal.
They did ask us if we could drop the walkways when they knew that we were interested in shooting there. It just turned into a big gag for us that's pretty big and exciting.
And what happens, though, is when you're doing the real deal, that's when you really have to be careful, because that's when things fly. I wouldn't be any closer than this.
That's a real heavy-duty causeway. They used to transport the grain through it on big conveyors. It's 8 feet wide, it's 10 feet high, 3 inches thick of concrete all the way through.
And I had to go up with a concrete saw. We cut it in 3 places just to make sure that when it fell, it would all break away.
Everybody stay out of the set. Everybody stay out of the set. All right, let's roll video. All right, we need to roll high moves. Roll the high moves.
Then we blast it and down she falls.
You know, you're 125 feet in the air. You don't want to have the fire department or any of the special effects crew members to run up those stairs and put out a fire. So we ran our own sprinkler system in the whole building. And then as soon as the explosion went off, the water was right there. We just revved up the pumps and put all the fires out. And those are things that you do just to make everything safe.
That's great. Good.
Hey, looks good. Also goes in.
Let's see it again.
I didn't think it was going to be that big.
It's 8 a.m. and we're thinking about maybe dropping those 2 bridges. Well, where did they go? Where did they go? Somebody beat us to it.